Hello, and welcome to my stream today. I don't know, I can't talk. I'm sorry, I apologize. Hi, Libby. Hi, Elizabeth. I'm looking for... Hi, Katie. I'm looking for... I feel like there was a tab for like short stories. I guess I made that up because I thought that would be a nice thing to track, but... Oh, hi, Bruna. Oh, you're at a dinner party. Lame. If it's not with me, it's not cool. Oh gosh, let's turn that light down a little bit. Anyway, it's been a reading week. Lots of reading. I'm very behind on my spreadsheet. I want to update. Okay. Today is going to be another stream where I'm going to try to just go for an hour, because we're still in the midst of the Read D&D-a-thon, and I want to win. AKA make 10 characters, because I'm so extra. So, I am planning on reading for the rest of the night. So I'm going to try to go to like 6:15, that's like an hour and 10 minutes. And that like be like my cutoff point. We'll see how it goes. Oh, you just subscribed to our vlog channel? Well, thanks. I feel like most people like watch our vlog channel and then like don't watch my personal channel. So I think that's funny that you're the other way around, where like you haven't been watching our vlogs, you've just been watching me. It's fine though. Like, I just think it's funny though, because I feel like we get a lot more like interaction over there. In general. Not that I don't get interaction here, I do. Just a book and not multiple books, because we talked about so many books. Unless all of those were on your TBR already. You watch both. I feel like most people do watch both, or are more likely to watch the vlog channel, because Christopher is amazing, and why would you not want to watch him? Although the last vlog is very me-centric. I feel like that is like one of the most me-centric vlogs we've had in a while. All about me talking about books and more bookish things and getting glasses and stuff. So anyway, you've read 4 books so far in February. That's awesome though. Let me see. My hips are like really hurting right now for some reason. I'm an old lady. Hi, Judith. I was gonna message you and like see how you're doing, because we haven't talked in a few days and it's weird. I'm sorry, I've been I was feeling very like slumpy about everything, so I kind of just like took a couple days off from like talking to anyone. I've read a lot of books so far this month. Not nearly enough, but a lot. And they're not all like full-length books. But a lot. So, let's go over the books that I already have added to the spreadsheet. And then let's add all the new books to the spreadsheet. The reason I wanted like a short story tab, and I wonder if he had one of these in the previous year. Okay, I didn't use one in 2018. He did. He had a short story tracker in 2018. And did the charts track that? I wonder. Because I'm thinking that I might use a short story tracker to, and maybe I'll just go harass Brock about this. I think I'm gonna just take this. Oh, will it not let me? I might have to do it on a separate page. Bear with me for a second. Ah, stop. Oh, will it not me? Oh, it won't let me drag it straight down. I wonder if I need to close this now for it to appear. Let's try exiting this and see if that will make it appear. Sorry, this is not the most exciting thing. You've finished 0 books this month. It's okay. Hi, Keisha. Why is it not here, I wonder? But I want it here. Let's try this again. I guess maybe enough people didn't use the short story tracker, but like now this year I want it. Oh. There we go. I have it. Okay, so this is a thought that I had today. I want to track yes, I want to delete that. Okay, so I want to track, where's my brain today? Okay, I want to track in my spreadsheet. So this is how I think I'm going to track stuff this year. That Goodreads is going to be like my catch-all where I'm going to shove everything. DNFs, picture books, everything, because that is my way to like see everything that I've read, the time period that I read it, regardless of DNFs and blah blah blah. And I don't really care about Goodreads stats because they're not like specific enough for how I would want my stats anyway. And then on my spreadsheet, I kind of want to keep my like very short stories, so books that are like maybe under 100 pages, like graphic novels and like children's picture books on a separate list, if that makes sense. Just like how I'm separating DNFs out and stuff, and just like track it differently this year than I have in the past. And then if I decide that I hate this, I can always like copy them over, and that's no big deal. But I just thought I would try it since I've never done it before, and I've always just shoved everything together. But since I have everything shoved together on Goodreads, I might as well try separating them out and see if I like that better, because I don't know. Like, and I know you shouldn't feel this way. Like, it doesn't matter what you read. The fact that you're reading is what's great, and it's not like the number that you're reading. But at the same time, like, it's super satisfying to be able to just like look at this list and be like, I've read 40 novels this year or whatever, and not like have like, oh, but like 5 of those were like single issue comics that took like 5 minutes to read and stuff like that. We're like, it doesn't matter, and you can totally like say whatever, but like I think it would be nice just to be able to have that like information. And like I already have Goodreads as like my catch-all with like everything DNFs, single issue comics, and everything shoved in there. So I think I might do that and make a short story tracker, but instead name this like something like, okay, let's first change the color to this, no, the lilac doesn't stand out enough. Maybe this nice like bluey teal color. And then I'm going to change the title. Rename to graphic novels and manga. And also, like, honestly, I have not been in the mood to read physically for like years at this point. Like 2015 is the last time, 2014 was the last time that I was really like, wow, I really want to read physical books. And that's like the majority of what I read in 2014 was like physical books. Short works, that would work as well. Maybe I will do that, because it's not gonna be just graphic novels and manga. It will be like comics as well, which are different, and maybe other things as well. Short works is a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe if I could get one of you, I don't know if this is asking like way too much, but any of you who know how to like set up spreadsheets, is there any way that you could take my numbers from here and implement them into my summary, or even give them their own summary page? If that's too much, or if any of you would like to volunteer to do that and like help me figure out how to do that, I would love you forever. Because I would still like to get like my stats on this and like how it works, but yeah, I don't have to. I just don't know if I'll be able to figure it out on my own. And again, I might like go bully Brock into it for me and be like, please will you just like set this up for me with my spreadsheet that I already have. So anyway, it's never the number, but it's secretly the number. And I just feel like I'll be able to say something with a lot more like cred if I'm like, oh, I know for sure like this is the number of books I've like actually finished this year, and just like being able to like keep that, and I don't know, in the back of my mind, like it will be a nice thing to know, but rather than shoving everything together and feeling like I feel guilty or like I'm lying to someone if I've said that I've read this number of things when really half of them were graphic novels or whatever. But since I am so much in the mood to read, physically right now, which is so bizarre and not something I've experienced in a long time. But most of the things that I want to physically read are like picture books and graphic novels and other things like that, and like nonfiction, but like very picture-filled nonfiction and stuff like that. Like, I want to read it, so I'm gonna, but I'd like to track it separately. You'd be able to finish so many books this year, Bruna, if you kept going the pace you're at. You've been going crazy. Anyway. So let's rename this. Short works. And it's not going to be all... I'm going to keep books... You can do it, Bruna. We all believe in you, though. Graphic... What was I gonna say? I don't remember what I was gonna say. I think I'm gonna set this up the same way as the book survey. So I literally think I'm gonna, like, do this... Scroll over, do this, copy, there we go, and then scroll down to here and hit delete, and scroll up and hit delete. Scroll down, hit delete. The reason I don't want to highlight from here is because I don't want that to, whatever. I don't want to like delete those words too. So I guess I can do this then and scroll up. Whoa. I don't know why this is turning green. Oh well, it's fine. I think, and this way keeping them separate as well, like, I think I do want to count these as like books read for my book blanket, but I'm not totally sure if I want to, so I can keep them in a separate little like pile. And then if I do decide I want to crochet them, that's easy enough and I can just like mark them off. But if I don't, then that's easy as well because I don't have to like go through and like exclude things. Doing all this. Reading, I don't know. It's not like I'm actually being productive, though. I'm not doing laundry or cleaning or studying or anything. I'm just making spreadsheets. Yeah, Libby reads a lot of library books. Okay, so I wonder, since these have the same thing as this, so like if I put, let's look at my summary right now. So right now I have 0 nonfiction and so like 0 nonfiction, and I'm at 41 books, including DNFs, and then if I go over here, if I mark a date as, oh, I finished it this date, if it's nonfiction, will that change this number? 41? No, it doesn't. Unless it needs, does it need other stuff too? Does it need like a title and a status as read and an author and a gender and a protagonist, and does it need all that? No, I don't think it's going to show for this one at all, which I don't think I want it to, so that's okay. 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 That's true. You were sick for a really long time, and you're still sick, so. I'm already out of water. Okay, so then as far as my book survey goes, do you think that I should, I don't know. So like when we were very young and now we are 6, should I move those or I should keep them? I think I'm gonna keep them, actually. But then, like, Fantastic Four issue 1, I think I'm gonna move over to short works then. Hi, Amber. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. Now let's actually maybe talk about the books that I've read this week. Do thugs. Do things. Okay, I'm gonna get some water. Well, Judith is gonna promote some language site. Oh my goodness, my hips are like hurting so much. Oh, that's awesome, Judith. Wish you had gone to the library before this year, huh? Sorry, I'm such a brat. Okay, so let's go over the books I've read this year. I don't think I'd finished Down Among the Sticks and Bones when... Have I already talked about Down Among the Sticks and Bones? I can't remember. I think I haven't. Or maybe I have. I can't remember if I finished them before or after the live stream. Anyway, Down Among the Sticks and Bones. I think, is it Elizabeth who didn't like this book? Or am I making that up? Well, everyone and their mom has read it, so... No, Elizabeth did like this. This Elizabeth liked this. Did other Elizabeth not like this? There's too many Elizabeths. Let me see. Or am I making that up? Oh well. Either way, I liked it. I'm just confused about who said that to me now. Anyway. Hi, is it Lena? Is that how you say your name? Let me know if that's how you say your name. I'm not good at pronouncing names, but then I try to memorize them. Alright, Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Sean McGuire, for the second book in the Wayward Children series. I like this one better than the first one. I liked the world a lot, and I was much more like interested in this series. You haven't read it, so you're no help. Okay, well, I'm now super confused as to like who was telling me that they thought. I think it was book 2 that they were like, this book is super problematic, and I had problems with it, and I don't remember who said that. Anyway. So I guess it wasn't you. And other Elizabeth seemed to have rated it 4 stars, so I don't know who said it. But anyway, I enjoyed this book. It's about Jack and Jill and their origin story, and it's like this like weird like Frankenstein like Dracula world, and I really enjoyed it a lot more than book 1 actually. And you could start here if you wanted to. Book 1 is like a good introduction to like the world that this is. But you could start with this one if you felt like it, because it doesn't like spoil anything from the first book. This is like a prequel, like origin story of a couple of the characters from the first book. So anyway, I'm excited to continue on with the series though, and the writing didn't bother me as much in this one, which I think also improved my enjoyment level, because I didn't feel as irritated by it. I wasn't like jerked out of the story very harshly by all the descriptions. I feel like there were like less of them in this one, or maybe I'm just getting used to a writing style and starting to like ignore the things that I don't like. Hi, Morgan. Book 3 is a sequel to book 1, right? Anyway, I liked it. I recommend. You need to read book 4 soon. Can you get it from the library? Hi, Melody! You've come to bug us all. Yay. We feel so blessed. Fairy in Waiting, book 2, and Fairy Mom and Me by Sophie Kinsella. This is like, does anyone else just like really find it so strange that this is like what Sophie Kinsella is writing now. It's like middle grade, like fantasy. Like, does anyone else find this really weird? Anyway, the first book, Fairy Mom and Me, was cute. I read it last year when it came out, and I thought it was adorable. It's like basically like fairies, but it's like modern, and her like wand is like a computer wand, and like it's like a little cell phone, and you like type codes in, and that is like how you do magic. It's like very silly, and so like every time she like does a spell, like the words like bleep bloop bloop is like, or bleep bloop bloop or whatever is like on to like indicate that she's typing in her little code. But the problem is that Fairy Mom is terrible at doing spells and magic. So gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. And so basically, like, the daughter's the one that's kind of like holding everything together and being like, Mom, you need to remember this spell and remember this spell. But the mom like can't do anything right. And I feel so bad for her husband. They like almost like villainize him for like being like, please don't do magic, like please don't ruin this thing for me, and please like keep everything under control. And they're like, oh Dad, you're such a spoil sport. And I'm like, no, I think that's what it is right to like ask her to please not destroy everything. It is interesting that she didn't choose a pen name. I agree, but I guess she wanted to sell the books, and I guess people probably wouldn't care about the series if it wasn't Sophie Kinsella. So that is, I guess she just, I don't know, maybe it's a cash grab or something. Ooh yes, I love The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. It's so good. I've talked about it a million times on here. It's like my third. I've read it 3 times now. So yeah, Fairy Mom and Me was like fun, but like wasn't anything special, but it was fun, and I rated it 3 stars. Fairy in Waiting is basically Fairy Mom and Me. There's like no character development, no anything, nothing to make this book special. It's just Fairy Mom making a ton of mistakes, and then Ella like sort of fixing them and also making mistakes. It was just like really pointless. Like it was fine, but there was no need for it to exist. So anyway, I don't recommend it. I mean, if you have a kid and they liked book 1, then I say like try book 2. It's not like gonna hurt anything, but it's like definitely not like it's definitely not great. I read The Fantastic Four Volume 1. Let's see, where are we to there? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I read The Fantastic Four Issue 1, not Volume 1, Issue 1. This is from 1961. This is the very first Fantastic Four issue that ever came out. And one of the first, like, comics that was released under, like, Marvel's new name, because they, like, changed their name in 1961 to Marvel. And so I thought it would be, like, a fun place for someone who has, like, literally never read a comic book in their entire life. I've never read a single comic book in my entire life. I thought this would be, like, a fun place to start, is, like, the origin story for the Fantastic Four. And so I read it. It was fun. It was, I mean, I enjoy it more in, like, an intellectual sense, where it's, like, interesting to see the origin story and see, like, how, like, comic plots and tropes from, like, the 60s and stuff. But it's not, like, good on its own. Let's just say. It's interesting as a build-up, but it's not, like, great on its own. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. It's, I mean, it's it's very interesting. I don't know. I'm not, like, super used to, like, Fantastic Four. Like, I don't really know anything. I know who they are. Like, I've seen, like, the movie from whatever, and that was, like, terrible. But I don't, like, really know a ton about them, which is why, like, I also thought this would be an interesting place to start. Like, I don't really have very many, like, preconceived notions. Like, I watched the older movie when I was, like, 10 years ago, and I don't remember it at all. So, like, Reed, is that his name? Mr. Fantastic is, like, a major dickwad, and I, like, hate his guts. He's terrible. He's, like, so rude to Ben. Poor Ben. Ben is, like, the only, like, tolerable character in this series so far, because everyone else are just, like, giant dicks. And, like, it doesn't make any sense at all. But it's funny. And I had a good time reading it, even though it didn't make any sense. So, anyway. Yeah. Ben is the only, like, somewhat good character, the Thing. But, like, honestly, like, Mr. Fantastic, he's just, like, we should all, like, have, like, code names or whatever. And so everyone, like, chooses their code names, and he's like, and I'm going to be Mr. Fantastic. And he, like, names himself Mr. Fantastic, and he's like, and we're going to be the Fantastic Four. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, spare me. Like, stuck up much? And then it's, like, his fault that they all have these, like, things, and, like, everyone else can change their powers. Like, he's not always stretchy, and Johnny isn't always on fire, and whatever her name is, Sue, isn't always, like, invisible, but Ben, the Thing, is always the Thing. He's, like, basically ruined his entire life. Not basically, he has. Reed has ruined Ben's entire life. And he's just like, why are you holding a grudge? You're so rude for holding a grudge. You should just forgive me already. And it's like, what? Excuse me? Like, you're such a turd. And also, they have, like, so much money to burn and spare. Like, they're really, really rich, apparently, because, like, and also you can't even tell if they're, like, the good guys at the beginning of the story, and they're not, because they're causing havoc and mayhem all over the city by using their powers, just, like, walking around on the normal for no reason. They're not, like, fighting anyone. They're just, like, causing mayhem pointlessly. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was, like, enjoyable to read. Oh, and that's just the first half of the issue. The second half of the issue is all of them fighting the mole. Is that what his name? The mole? Mr. Mole? What's his name? Mole Man. There we go. The origins of Mole Man. And them fighting him and stuff. Anyway, it was very interesting. I still had a good time reading it, though. The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is the second book in the Folk of the Air series. I enjoyed book 1. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't really care for the novella. I gave it 2 stars, like the 1.5 novella. And then this one, I also gave 3 stars. I just don't think I super relate to, like, this trope or this, like, relationship. Like, everyone was, like, freaking out about this book, and about their relationship and all this stuff, and like it's fun. I think it's a fun read. I enjoyed it, but like I don't think it's like the next best book of all time. Like if you don't read this, I don't feel like your life is missing or lacking, but I enjoyed it. I don't know. I just feel like Jude makes so many mistakes but never learns from them. And I just like get really annoyed with characters that do that they're like impulsive or whatever, and they do all these things, but then they never learn from them. And so there's like this big thing that happens near the end, like maybe in the last quarter, like right at the beginning of the last quarter, that is like horrible, and it's completely her own fault for being stupid and not learning from her past mistakes. And I'm like, well, maybe if you just like not sucked, this wouldn't have happened to you. I don't know. So I just felt like myself getting like frustrated towards the end. I do think it's interesting though, and I definitely will continue on with the series. Book 3 will definitely make for very interesting reading. Oh my gosh. I want a chili dog. That does sound amazing. And hot cocoa blizzard. I don't think I spoiled anything with this. I do the same thing, Keisha. Let me see. Okay, so anyway, I enjoyed it. I ended up DNFing Homeland by R.A. Salvatore. I really wanted to like this book, but it's just really, really boring. I got like maybe a 10th of the way into it. I feel like I gave it a good chance. It was just horrifically boring, and then it got to this point where there's like a magical birth that's happening, and it just like is just like really cringy, and I didn't care for it. So I didn't finish it. Like I definitely could have pushed myself through it, but I just had like no desire. I wonder if I could find the quote of the birth happening that I sent to Christopher when I was reading it, and he's like, "What the heck are you reading?" And I'm like, "This book." And he's like, "Oh dear." Why? Oh gosh. Sorry, Christopher and I just text too much. I'm trying to like go back and find it. Okay. The hot tear of her skin, a sudden slippery release as the baby's head pushed through, the sudden ecstasy of birthing. I was just like, ugh. Not what I want to read, and not what I want to read like 10% into the new book that I'm reading. So I didn't, and I stopped. So anyway, I don't know. I didn't rate this book. I don't feel like I read enough of it, or like, because I do rate books like less than 10% in if I DNF them. If I like DNF them for like a specific reason, like if I found them like harmful or disgusting or whatever. But like it wasn't any of that with this one. It was just like mostly like boring. So I feel like I could give it 2 stars, but I just like decided not to rate it anything. Like I don't really I don't really care. And honestly, I forgot that I read this until like 2 days ago, and then I was like, oh shoot, I need to mark that I actually read that. Oops, that's not where I want to put it. I want to put it in my DNF tab. This was on the 5th. I definitely will try R.A. Salvatore again, but I don't know if he's an author that's gonna work for me. I think I got like 30 pages in. Yay. I have not read Deadly Class. Old Man's War by John Scalzi. Another book that I DNF'd. I'm so disappointed in this, y'all. I really... Was this on the 5th as well? It was on the 5th. I think I DNF'd this one before I DNF'd this one. So let's move that around. Old Man's War. I just don't think like military sci-fi is for me. It's just like boring and gruesome and just like a lot of battles, and I don't care. Like, I don't enjoy it. I don't know. I got to a point where literally I was just like watching people's deaths be described in like horrific detail for like probably like 30 pages of just like all these different characters dying in different like ways from aliens, and I don't know, it might have even been more than 30 pages, and I was just like, that was it. I was like, I cannot do it anymore. Like, I feel like I'm gonna lose it if I listen to any more of this book. And we got to this point where I think you're supposed to like, hi Lily. I feel like I got to this point where you were like supposed to care, and they like introduced this new like mystery aspect, and you were supposed to care and be invested, and I was just like, I'm gonna die if I read any more of this book. I really don't like it. But it's very much like an example of like, it's definitely me and not the book. Like, the book is just really not for me. Like, I don't think it was like terrible. It just like really didn't work for me. I also think that John Scalzi should never write about sex ever again, because he makes me very uncomfortable when he does so. Whenever he talks about sex whatsoever, it just like makes me cringe so much. He just should just stop. It should be illegal for John Scalzi to write sex in any form ever. Ugh. Anyway, that was this book. Yeah, I just like don't think military sci-fi is the kind of sci-fi for me. I read oh gosh. I think I read like around 156 pages. I think is about what I read. I listened to about 5 hours of the audiobook. I DNF'd it. I was 7 hours through the audiobook, but I started on hour 2 for the readathon. And the amount that I read was from last year, so. Anyway, let's hustle this along. And then Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, the first book in the Old West series. This was one of those books where, like, I finished it, and the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like it. Initially, I think I gave it 3 stars, and I was like, no, it's more like 2.5, and then I was like, oh no, it's like 2 stars. I just really, I don't know. I'm gonna get like minorly spoilery about this book. It definitely is not like any like major spoilers, but just like some minorly spoilers. So this is like in chapter 1 that he's actually like half African American and then half Caucasian. So he's half black, half white, and he's obviously very fair. And this is right after the Civil War ended. It's like it's like 1870. The Civil War has been over for like 5 years or something, and since the war ended and previous to that, he's been parading as a white man, because he can get away with it, and he does it so that he can be an influential person in society. So he is part of like the Republican Party or whatever, or the Democratic Party. I don't remember which party he's part of, but he's part of like one of the parties, and he is trying to keep like laws that aren't gonna like hinder black people more than they already are. Like the Civil War definitely didn't like fix everything, obviously, since so much of the civil rights stuff was like going on like literally 100 years later, and there was still like a ton of segregation and all these things. Sorry. Hi, Lizzie. And so he's like doing it for like a good reason, but he like feels like very guilty about it, and he feels like he's turned his back on like his heritage, which he sort of has, but he's like also doing it for like a good cause. Like there's like a point where he's like at one of the town meetings or whatever with the men, and they're like want to like segregate the school, which the school isn't segregated currently, and he like wants to segregate the school and like kick the like 3 black children out of the school that are there. And since he's there, he's like immediately stands up for them, and he's like, no, that's really stupid. Unless you're gonna like find them a new teacher and let them have their own school, you can't just do that. You can't just like kick them out and not give them any sort of education at all. And there's only 3 of them, like, cool your jets. And he was able to do that and like stop them from like kicking these black children out so that they wouldn't get an education and stuff. So he's like using it for good, but then he ends up meeting Edie, and he's like can't be with her because he's white and she's black. And so that's kind of like the cruxus of this story. Here are the things I didn't like about this book. 1, he's engaged to somebody else in this book, but he's like constantly mooning over Edie and like telling her like, oh, like I would totally like want to have an affair with you and stuff like that if you'd be willing, while he's engaged to the other girl, which is like really disrespectful to both women. And I don't condone cheating, and cheating didn't actually happen in this book, but he definitely like tells her that he like would cheat on his fiance with her, which like, ooh, really skeevy. And then I feel like we're supposed to forgive it because the woman that he's engaged to is a terrible person and like really racist and awful, but like it doesn't excuse it. Like it doesn't. I'm not gonna just forgive the fact that he is willing to cheat on his fiance just because his fiance is a terrible person. Like, he should just like grow a pair and like call off the engagement then. Like we shouldn't just forgive him doing something terrible because somebody else is doing something terrible. Like, no, it's so stupid, and I really don't like that. And it also just shows how stupid he is as well, because he didn't get to know the girl that he is engaged to whatsoever. He just went, oh, she's pretty, will you marry me? So I think it more shows how stupid he is more than showing what a terrible person the other lady is. Don't even get me started on her either. Like, she was a terrible person, and the plot got so dramatic at the end. So, 1, I really, really hated that part. I also hate that there are multiple times throughout the book. Remember, he's white, not really, but he's parading as white, and everyone thinks that he's white. He's white, and so there are multiple times throughout the book where they are in public together, and she's just minding her own business. She's, like, grocery shopping, and he's, like, talking to her, and she's edging away from him and asking him, please don't talk to me in public, because she's black, and everyone, it's illegal for them to have a relationship, being of opposite, like, being of different races. It's literally illegal for them to have a relationship. And she can be totally, like, ostracized from their society and all this stuff, and he would be totally fine because he's a white man and she's not a white female. And there are multiple times where she's like, please don't talk to me in public. Like, I don't want to risk, like, potentially even putting her life in danger by talking to him in public, because people might get the wrong idea and be like, oh, that black girl's talking to the white man and leading him astray from his fiance, and then she could literally get attacked for that. Like, the fact that he, as actually being a black man, is not aware of how much danger he's putting her in by doing that, like, really, really made me super angry. Like, he is the scum of the earth, and he needs to die. Like, I hate him. She deserves so much better. So, he's the worst. I really liked her, though, and that's why I rated it 2 stars instead of 1 star, is I do like her. She's very independent. She's a cook. She's really great at what she does. She's super competent and confident and is delightful, and I really enjoyed reading about her. I did think the book itself was very dramatic, and the plot is, like, not my favorite, but I really liked her, and she was definitely, like, the shining moment of this. Also, the ending, like, every little loose plot point in the entire book just gets wrapped up and shoved into the last, like, literally, no joke, like, 5% of the book. Like, literally within, how long even is this book? Let's see. So, literally within the last, like, 20 pages of the book, every little plot point gets, like, wrapped up and shoved in there. And I was just like, that was just way too much. And, like, it was just, like, too, like, nice and perfect and a neat little bow on the end. And it was, like, very, like, roller eyes. Like, I get that it's romance and that we want a happily ever after, but, like, that was, like, too perfect of a happily ever after with, like, all these other things coming together. It was just, like, I don't know. I didn't care for this book, but I really liked her, and I'm really happy to be seeing diverse historical fiction and diverse romance, but diverse historical fiction is great, and I want to read more from Beverly Jenkins. Like, she's supposed to be, like, the queen of, like, African American romance, so I'll read the second book, but I'm really not happy with this book. Tempest is supposed to be, like, phenomenal by her, though, and these definitely get better ratings as they go along, and it's not like this book has, like, totally, like, so many more reviews than this one. It has not even double of the amount of ratings, so, like, I don't know. Anyway. It doesn't actually have cheating in it, but it's definitely, like, could have happened if she wasn't like, no. Like, I'm not gonna, like, you have a fiance, why are you even talking to me? Anyway, I wasn't a fan. Let's keep going. I meant to talk about my Contemporaryathon plans to start with as well. I didn't. I forgot. It's okay. We'll go to them at the end. Let's talk about all my other books that I've read so far. I don't think I'm going to update these on the spreadsheet right now. I'm going to wait until after, because I don't feel like I have time. I, like, wanted to be done in 15 minutes. I don't think that's going to happen. Let's lightning round these. Okay, Codename Liz, the true story of the woman who became World War II's most highly decorated spy, by Larry Loftus. This is exactly what it sounds like. I feel like the books that I've read recently about World War II have been very much like, they've been set in America. They've been more like the background of the war and like what America was doing during the war, and not as much like in the thick of war. So I feel like I got kind of like spoiled with books that were like on a tough subject, but not like horrifically emotionally traumatizing. Where like this book, she's in the thick of war. She is a spy. She's over in France and then Germany during the war, and she went through a lot. So if you don't feel like you can deal with the content of this book, I don't blame you. Content warning for graphic descriptions of torture. Lots and lots of graphic descriptions of torture, both to her and to other people. And she was put into a concentration camp and lived in a concentration camp and was tortured in a concentration camp for a while. She was a prisoner of war for 2 years and suffered a lot of horrific things. So, like, if you don't feel like you can read this book, I don't blame you. I, like, when I was reading it, I was just, like, sobbing through the second half of this book. Because it's so heartbreaking. Anyway, I don't know. I don't feel like you can, like, spoil nonfiction because, like, it's nonfiction. Like, it's happened. It's out there. The information's out there that it's, like, a true story. But, basically, this is about, this girl, Odette, who, at the beginning of World War II, she was living in England. She is French, but she's been living in England for a few years, and she has 2 daughters, and she's, like, kind of, like, estranged from her husband, and basically, the army was like, we really want you to be a spy for us over in France. And she was like, no, I'm good. Like, I have my 2 daughters. I'm at home. I'm fine. Like, I'll do what I can here for the war, but, like, I don't want to, like, go be a spy. And they're like, no, you should really come be a spy. And she's like, I guess I'll go through training and see how I feel after that. And then she goes through training and was like, great. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll go be a spy. And so then she was a spy. I really liked the writing in this book. I was very engaged in her story. She was such a, like, an interesting person, and I respect her so much. This book does have, like, a little bit of a romance in this, but it's not, like, really, really sad, but it's not, like, 100% happy either. So, if you want a little bit of romance in this, there is that. And basically, she went over to France and then ended up getting kidnapped. And the second half of the book is, like, about her, like, being a POW. And then the first half of the book is, like, kind of more her training and stuff. So the first half is definitely, like, a lot, like, happier and fluffier and, like, more, like, fast-paced and, like, all this stuff. And then the second half is, like, a lot more, like, emotionally devastating. I loved reading about this, though, and like I said, I loved the writing. The only thing I would say is that I wish... I mean, this book is not a long book. It's only 384 pages. It was a 10-hour audiobook. It's super short. And even then, a lot of the book wasn't spent on her. There's a big portion that is spent on her, like, basically, like, her commanding officer, who also was taken prisoner and was a POW for the same amount of time she was. A lot of it follows him because they were not kept together, but they're, like, paths very much like overcrossed, even when they weren't together, and they like managed to send messages to each other for a while and keep in contact for as long as they could, even when they were and then even then, like, they like were able to like reconnect like at the end of the war and stuff like this. So like their paths did overlap a lot, and their stories were like vital to each other's stories, but at the same time, like, I feel like we spent too much time on him, and there were like a lot of times where I was just like, really, can we please just get back to Lise, you know, like the main character? Like, why are we spending so much time learning about all these little details about him? Like, either I feel like it should have been split up better so that it didn't feel like we were spending so much time with just Peter, and I'm like, please get back to Odette. That would be like my one like complaint about this book, but overall I did really enjoy this, and it gets added to my list of like favorite nonfiction. I really did like this book a lot. Very definitely emotionally traumatizing though. That especially like that last like third was like bawling. She thought you were talking about Tom Brady's wife. I get that so much living in Massachusetts. Like, every time somebody learns my name, they're like, oh, like Tom Brady's wife. And I'm like, huh, yeah, totally. Bold and Brave. 10 Heroes Who Won Women the right to vote. Huh. Written by Kristen Gillibrand and art by Maria Kalman. So this is, like it says, it's 10 women who won voting for women in America. So basically it's just these 10 little like vignettes, and then at the end it had, oh, alright, bye Bruna. I'm so sorry I made you use all your data. Thank you for watching. I'm so sorry. Read lots. You got it. This, I really liked the format of this, and it's just like basically saying the women, how they were like connected to each other, what they did in their own rights, and then how they like affected women's vote, and then at the end they also had like a couple pages full of like 20 more women who also affected everything. What I hated about this book is the art. Like, I hate the art in this book so much. It is not my personal taste whatsoever, which is why I would say this book is like a 3.5-star book for me. I really like the content word-wise, but like really I don't like the art, and for that reason I feel like I can't recommend like buying it and giving it to your daughter, because like I think it's ugly, but some of you might really like it. So this is like a book where I'd be like, oh, you should go check it out from your library, and if you like the art then you can buy it. But like, it's not one that in good conscience I could be like, oh, you have to go read this is amazing, go buy it, because I really hate the art in this book. Anyway, I read it. It's very short. It's 40 pages. It's just a children's picture book, essentially. This is Fairy Quest Outlaws by Paul Jenkins, Humberto Ramos, and Leonardo Olea? I don't know. This is the first issue. It's only 26 pages long. It's very, very short. The first issue in this, like, tiny little, like, there's only 2 issues. I haven't read the second issue yet, but I'm gonna read it very soon. I love the art in this, and I think the story is super interesting. I'm super excited to read issue 2. I'm definitely gonna pick it up probably after the Contemporaryathon. I really, really like this a lot. The reason it's 4 stars and not 5 stars mostly is because there is this one shot where this little girl, she's Red Riding Hood, she doesn't look that old, right? She looks like she's like maybe 10. there's like a scene where she's like running and like her skirt flies up and you can see her underwear, and I'm like, is this necessary? Like, she's 10, must be doing this to girls at such a young age. It's disturbing and I don't like it, so I gave it 4 stars instead. But I really like the story and I'm very intrigued to see what happens in the second issue. The Fantastic Four, issue number 2. This is Skrulls from Outer Space. This is the introduction of the Skrulls, which is perfect timing for Captain Marvel coming out. Captain Marvel coming out in... When does that movie come out? April? Like, it comes out real soon, and I was like, oh, now I know where the Skrulls, like, were first introduced. I definitely like this one better than the first issue. Again, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and the plot is, like, very silly and dramatic and, like, hokey, but it was a lot more fun and enjoyable, and I just had a good time reading it, and it was really fun seeing, like, the origin of the Skrulls. I was not expecting that when I started this, and then I was just, like, when I was like, oh, I'm gonna read issue number 2, and then I looked up issue number 2, and I'm like, oh, it's the Skrulls! Anyway, this one is the Skrulls impersonating the Fantastic Four, and then them having to, like, redeem their names because they gave them a bad name. And we're doing horrific acts dressed as the Fantastic Four. It was a good time. I don't really have that much to say about it, though. The Charm Bracelet by Emily Rada. This is the first book in the Fairy Realm series. This was a reread for me. I loved this series when I was younger. Boy, it's not good. I really don't like this book. When I was younger, I read the entirety of the series, and I gave them all 4 stars. I really, really liked them. This first one is not good. It doesn't make very much sense. The whole cruxus of the plot of this book is that a woman, a queen, abandons her family, abandons her country, abandons her people with no ruler. And if she ends up to run away with a man, and if she ends up dying when she's gone or anything, she's never going to see her family again for 50 years. She's not going to see her family for 50 years, not going to see her people for 50 years, is leaving everyone, and if she's not back within 50 years, and if she's not back in 50 years, or if, like, she dies before then or whatever, she's leaving the country completely defenseless, and it's going to get taken over by, like, orcs and ogres and, like, dark creatures, and the whole country will be doused in darkness forever. And everyone will be enslaved and killed. For a man. So I hated it. Like, that's garbage. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Like, this book was written in 2001. In the 2000s, are we still playing that women are giving up everything for men game? Like, spare me, especially for this being, like, the cruxus of this story, and the plot of this entire thing is based off of her abandoning everything to be with a man, and giving up her entire life and everything to be with a man that she's only met a couple times, and then there's a lot of magic that isn't explained in this. The characters have no development, are very, like, one-dimensional and boring and annoying. The characters in this are so annoying and so stupid and don't have an ounce of common sense. I hated it so much. I don't recommend. I'm gonna go on and read, so, like, basically, her sister is queen in her absence, but, like, in name only doesn't have any of the power or magic to save the country from... Basically, there's a timer, like a 50-year timer, that if this magical timer isn't renewed every 50 years, then the country will fall into darkness. But before she leaves, she doesn't teach anyone the magical spell. She doesn't, like, bestow the crown onto the other person, so she's just, like, ruling in name only, but she can't do anything. So, no. Which also doesn't make any sense. And then, before she leaves the second time at the end of the story, because, surprise, surprise, it doesn't fall into darkness, and they manage to save it. Before she, like, leaves again, she ends up, like, announcing that that person's, like, daughter, the, like, current ruler's daughter, will be the queen, like, when she dies, or, like, when the mom dies or whatever, that she will now, like, be able to take over being queen, and she, like, teaches her the magic, like, spell to, like, renew everything and stuff. And I'm like, why couldn't you have done that in the first place? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And, like, I don't know why she couldn't just give up her crown to the sister in the first place, who's been ruling for, like, 50 years since you abandoned everything for a man. Some high-key BS. Exactly. This was garbage. I'm gonna read book 2 and see if I like it better, because now that we're done with, like, this, maybe I'll enjoy it better. But if I don't like book 2, I'm just gonna, like, get rid of the entire series and, like, go through and, like, delete my ratings on all of them. I don't know, because, like, I really loved the series when I was younger, but, like, this just, like, pissed me off majorly. So, I don't recommend. Something I do recommend, though, is I read Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow, the sequel to Nevermore, and this is by Jessica Townsend. I really like this book a lot. I feel like Nevermore was one of those books, though, that when I read it, like, I really loved it, but, like, within like, a week or two of reading it, like, I couldn't remember why I loved it. Like, it didn't, like, stick with me super well, but I still really, really enjoyed it. And I don't know if that, like, hindered my enjoyment level of this one at all, but I do like this one. I did not see the ending coming, and I loved the ending, and it, like, definitely, like, raised the book up in my mind a little bit more right at the end. But in the same regard, something that lowered it in my mind is right before the ending. The first ending, there's, like, 2 endings. The first ending, I totally saw coming a mile away from, like, very early into the book. I was like, oh, this is how it's gonna end. This is what's gonna be going on. And then it happened, and I was, like, very disappointed that they couldn't choose. Basically, it's a mystery, and if you're gonna make a mystery, I feel like you should have interesting characters and non-obvious characters be perpetrating the mystery, and the perpetrator was, like, ridiculously obvious. And so I felt, like, very, like, frustrated in that regard, and I was like, oh, surprise, surprise, we found out who is causing the mayhem. Like, I'm so surprised, when it was, like, very obvious right from, like, the second, anyway, from the beginning. So I overall ended up giving this 4 stars. You, like, see Morgan starting magical school, and it's, like, very frustrating watching it, because she's basically, like, being treated like a second-class citizen, and it's, like, very frustrating to, like, see everyone, like, judging her for something that she can't control, which is, like, her being a wondersmith and stuff. So anyway, I really liked this, though, and I recommend. It was a fun read. Let's see. Thumbelina by Hans Christian Andersen, or Little Tiny. I wanted to read this for February, because one of the challenges in February is to read a book where a human becomes fae. And I'm like, I can't think of any books, and couldn't find a list of any books where a human becomes fae. So I was like, I'm just going to read Thumbelina, because I've seen the movie, and she becomes fae, right? Well, not really. She doesn't actually, but I'm still going to count it, because bullcrap. You guys know Thumbelina. I gave it 2 stars. It really doesn't make any sense, and just perpetuates the fact that beauty and looks are the only thing important. So she hates the toads because they're ugly. And she marries the prince because he's handsome. And he marries her. Like, literally, she meets the prince right at the end of the book. There's no interaction with them up until the very end of the book. Literally, the second she meets him, he says, "You're very beautiful. Will you marry me? What's your name?" And I'm like, that's priorities. Like, you don't even know what her name is, but you want to marry her. And you're like, will you marry me and become the queen of, like, all the people who live in the flowers with me? What's your name again? It just doesn't make any sense. Like most fairy tales, retellings tend to be better. I don't know. It's not great, but I do love, like, the whimsy of the story, and the different, like, characters that you end up seeing, and I do love aspects of it, but overall, like, it's not good. So I give it 2 stars. Disenchanted, The Trials of Cinderella by Megan Morrison. This is the 2nd book in the Time series, and I love it so much. I think this is my favorite retelling of all time. I love this series. Rapunzel, grounded The Adventures of Rapunzel, I reread last month. I loved it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. First time I read it, I gave it 4 stars. This time around, I was like, wow, the world building in this is so great, and the character setup and everything is so great. I can't wait to continue. And then this, like, it just, like, is so good, and I didn't realize how good the first book was. This one is even better. It's all about, like, workers' rights and, like, it's brilliant. I love it. It's I don't know. Like, I don't even have the words to describe, like, how great this book is. But it's Cinderella, and she grew up very poor, but her circumstances have been elevated. This is my favorite rendition that I've ever seen of the Wicked Stepmother. I love that character. She's one of my favorites. I love Dash. I love him getting educated by Ella. I love everything about this book. It's great. This is, like, my favorite retelling. It's wonderful. It's Cinderella, but about, like, fair rights for workers. It's the best thing ever. I highly recommend. If you haven't read the series yet, please do yourself a favor and read it. Definitely read book 1 first, though. Definitely do. Book 1 is Rapunzel and Jack and the Beanstalk, and the book 2 is Cinderella. And I read River Teeth by Sarah Gailey. This is the first book in this duology. Basically, this is like an alt history Wild West book where they basically transported a bunch of, like, hippos into the bayous to, like, be new, like, the new, like, beef and stuff for, like, the meat shortage that was going on in, like, the early to mid 1800s. This was, like, their solution to it. It almost happened. They almost actually did this and almost actually imported hippos in to eat. We could all be eating hippos right now, you guys. Anyway, assuming that you live in America. So they almost did this, and this is kind of like the alt history of, like, what would happen if they had did this. And so they're basically, like, hippo cowboys. And I don't know, I had a really hard time. I was just feeling super slumpy the other day. And this was a book that I definitely kind of, like, forced myself through. Like, I just, like, was feeling, like, very, like, out of it and was having a hard time, like, concentrating on it. I feel like there's a lot of characters. It's a very short book. And I felt like there was so much, like, crammed into it. So it's one that I think I'm going to try to reread in a couple months, maybe. And, like, try to see how I feel about it and, like, then read the sequel. Because as of right now, I'm, like, I don't know how I really feel about this. Because, like, it was fun. It was really fun. I'll probably end up giving it 3 stars, but I want to reread it before I, like, actually, like, rate it. if that makes sense. But it was like very enjoyable and it's a very interesting idea. And Archie was definitely my favorite character. Archie was great. The second she was introduced, I was like, yes! Anyway, I had a lot of fun with that. So, River of Teeth. And let me see. Like, is there anything else that I've read since... that I haven't talked about? That I haven't marked on my Goodreads yet? I don't think so. Oh yeah, there is. Okay, well let's talk about this one. This is, I'm technically currently reading this right now. This is Love Irresistibly by Julie James. This is the 4th book in the FBI/US Attorney series. So I'm like, oh, I want to read this for Contemporaryathon. And then I was like, oh, I kind of want to just like read it now. So I start it, and I'm like, I've already read this. But I know I haven't read the entirety of it. I've just read the first part of it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just skip through until like I get to a part that I haven't read yet. You guys, I skipped the first half of the audiobook. And I'm still not totally sure where I got in this book. I know I haven't finished it though, but like I skipped 5 hours of this audiobook. It was like, I've already read all of this part. I have no recollection of picking this book up, no recollection of starting it, no recollection of when I would have done it. I know it was sometime after August, because I read the 3rd book in August. It was sometime between August and December, but I have genuinely, literally no idea. And I also canceled my Audible romance subscription, I think in October, so I think it was before then. I guess in September or October, I like started this book and didn't finish it for whatever reason. Maybe I started it during the last Contemporaryathon. That might have been when I read this, but like I didn't finish it. I'm really, 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 really confused about this book. So I'm currently reading it technically, but since I've read over half of it, I don't want to read it for the Read D&D-a-thon, so I'm just going to completely like put it off and finish it after Contemporaryathon. But, like, I just feel really confused. And I was, like, reading this, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. I feel like my brain is, like, dying. Like, I've already read this. I know I've already read this, but I know I haven't actually finished it. This is a weird experience, you guys. Now that I'm thinking about it, though, I think I might have done it for the last round of Contemporaryathon, which was in September. I might have started it and not, like, finished it during Contemporaryathon, and then, like, not felt motivated to keep on reading it. Very weird. Very weird. And then I also ended up rereading Alice in Wonderland. I reread this earlier today, and I just had so much fun with it. I need to, like, condense this with this. That's what I need to do. Anyway, I ended up rereading Alice in Wonderland, and I didn't DNF it. I know I didn't. I DNF'd book 3, but I didn't DNF book 4. I think I just, like, forgot to finish it. Anyway, I don't know why Alice in Wonderland's not opening, but I reread Alice in Wonderland, and it was a lot of fun. This is obviously one of my favorite books of all time. I adore it. And now I really, really want to reread Through the Looking Glass, and I just had a grand old time with this. I listened to the version narrated by Jim Dale, which was, like, also really fun, and now I, like, want to, like, reread Harry Potter, which is, like, really weird. It's not a phrase I thought I would ever come out of my mouth again. But now I, like, really want to reread Harry Potter because this was so fun. So, anyway, yeah. I reread Alice in Wonderland as well, so I read through a lot of things. I'll add them to my spreadsheet later. Let's talk about my Contemporaryathon TBR. I don't know. I don't know if I really feel like pulling up the covers on Goodreads and stuff, so I'm just gonna zoom in so hopefully you guys can read it and then see what they count for. So, for Contemporaryathon, I want to read for my book that has blue or purple on it. I'm gonna read Playing Doctor by oh gosh, Kathy Yardley, I think her name is. This is like a totally like blurple cover, like a dark bluey, almost purple tinted blue, and this is a book that I'm afraid I'll hate because I haven't liked the last two books in the series, but I loved like the first few books in the series, and now I feel very conflicted about this series. Anyway, I'm excited to read it still, and this is book 5 in the series, and there are like 3 novellas as well. So I've read a lot of the books in this series, but this one, she has agoraphobia. She wants to go, she's like she's gonna go on like a scavenger hunt all over the country to try to like win money to like keep her sister's bookstore open. But she has agoraphobia, so she ends up going in a motorhome that's painted like the TARDIS, which is why it's called Playing Doctor. I'm really excited about it. The plot sounds awesome. 99% Mine by Sally Thorne is going to count for a contemporary with some sort of picture on the spine. I'm excited to read this, but I have pretty low expectations. You're reading The Little Prince in French first now? That's so cute. And then read a book, a diverse contemporary. I have chose Intercepted. This is like a football romance with a black main character. I think it's written by a black author as well. Begging for It is going to be my dark, emotional / hard-hitting contemporary, and this is the second book in the Asking For It series. It's a book about rape fantasies. It's definitely going to be dark and taboo. I was going to do Love Irresistibly for contemporary that I meant to read in 2018 but didn't get to. So I might use for the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for that, or I could use Yotsuba Volume 11 for that, because like I may do like some extra like crossover of like multiple things, because Yotsuba, I really wanted to finish reading rereading this entire series in 2018, but I didn't. I got through the first 10, and I had 3 that I didn't end up getting to, so I would like to do that one. So I think I'm going to do that one for one that I meant to read in sorry, I had the hiccups. 2018, but it didn't get to. A contemporary in a non-traditional format could also be Yotsuba. Or I also checked out the first few volumes of Ouran High School Host Club from the library, so I might do that one for that instead, because it's also a manga. And then 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo technically doesn't count for this one anymore. It did originally. I could always use it for my diverse contemporary instead. I'm not sure. I definitely want to get to 7 Husbands very soon, but technically the most recent contemporary that I purchased was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So I think I'm going to do that one, and I might get to 7 Husbands after Contemporaryathon or read it at the end of Contemporaryathon. I'm also planning on getting to, oh gosh, what is it called? In Melody's in Melody's TBR, not Melody. Melanie's TBR for Contemporaryathon, she mentioned that she's going to be reading Vicious by LJ Sheen, so I'm going to read that with her, and we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to read that too. And those are my plans for Contemporaryathon. I might try to fit in a couple others where I can, but like that's like my base TBR. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I definitely ran over what I wanted to, but I read a lot of books this month so far, in the past week. As far as my Read D&D-a-thon is going, it could be going better. I had a bit of a crisis last night and completely rearranged the rest of my TBR. So we'll see how the next few days go. I only have 4 days left, and I have a lot of books to finish. So we'll see. But I'm having a lot of fun, and I feel like I can finish if I like push myself. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm sorry, this was not the most interesting live stream, but I feel like next week, when I'm not feeling like the pressure of like, I could be reading right now, instead I'm live streaming, I think it'll be more interesting then. And then also I will be able to like update all the spreadsheets, and they'll be looking real nice, and I'll have more ideas. My ideas will be more like set in stone, rather than me just being like, I think I want to do this, but not really thinking it out fully. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I still streamed for over an hour and a half. I feel like that's still pretty long. My throat is getting really tired anyway. I'm sure you guys can hear it's like starting to go out. Next week I'll try to do an extra long stream to like make up for it potentially. Although maybe not, because Contemporaryathon will still be going on and I need to win Contemporaryathon. But I don't think I'll have an issue with that. I'll have like a whole day off to read, well, 2 days off to read Contemporary during Contemporaryathon, so I could do that. Anyway, you're gonna go play, you're gonna read before you go play bingo. Oh, awesome, have fun. Can we make a Kingdom Hearts themed readathon a thing? That sounds awesome. Honestly, Elizabeth, you message me and we can do that. That sounds great. And they can be based off of all the different worlds or characters. Either one. Oh, that sounds great. We should do that. I mean, or you could do it, but I would totally help join in that, because that sounds great. I would do it. I feel like it would have to be like a super epic one. And excessive, because that is the best way to do readathons. Epic and excessive. Anyway. Yeah, no, we should. That's a really good idea. We should chat about that. Like, I that's one that I would definitely be able to like bounce ideas off of Chris and be like, give me all the ideas for the readathon. Chris doesn't really do readathons, but I think he'd have a lot of fun like planning one that was Kingdom Hearts. So anyway, all right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining me tonight. And I'll see you next week. And hopefully I won the Read D&D-a-thon and made 10 characters. Otherwise, I'll cry. Alright, bye everyone.